Hi everybody, Rochelle Jones, Grief Recovery with Rochelle. So today I am thinking about, my service brothers and sisters, but really this can apply for anyone. And I know, grief recovery, disclaimer straight up front, grief recovery, well hi Joe, grief recovery has absolutely no element or no part of it that involves religion. Nothing about it. But I do know that in my own life, I have my personal belief system. And I do know that many people who follow my work and who have taken part in my work even have a religious belief that they follow. Okay. So I have my own personal that I keep completely out of the class, but I'm going to bring a little piece of it here for you today because I think it's applicable. Okay. So we grew up talking about grief. We're always talking about grief, and we're always talking about the feelings that bubble up when we have hopes or dreams or expectations that were not met the way that we thought they would be. It's so when we grew up a certain way and we get to adulthood and realize it's either killing me or I've just got to stop it altogether because I can't keep up with it, or we're killing ourselves to try to keep up with it, right? So grief is all over the place. And it takes a lot of learning to undo some of the ways that we were taught. So I'm literally going to share a scripture with you. I read the easy to read version of the Bible. It's my favorite. I love it. It's fantastic. But I want to share this one piece with you, and there's a reason. So stick with me. So there are these two different groups, right? And these people they're not really like wanting to have this heart shift, this heart change. The one group pretty much just got schooled. So the other group's like, oh, okay, I can do better than that. So they go thinking they're going to get some fancy, ooh, I stumped Jesus type of thing, right? So they go and they say, so Jesus, they're trying to test him. So Jesus, tell us, well, they didn't call him Jesus because that would mean a lot of things. So they said, teacher, which command in the law is the most important? So Jesus responds, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. Now this is the first and most important command. Now here's the one. And the second command is like the first. Love your neighbor, like the friend, the people over there, people who are not you. Love your neighbor the same as you love yourself. And the reason, hi, thanks for joining. The reason I think that is so cool, pause. Love your neighbor, love the people in the world the same as you love yourself. So the reason that comes up to me to be kind of interesting for grief recovery is we have been taught that our love for ourselves had to come through accolades, had to come through some kind of feedback in a positive way from other people. We had to please our teachers, didn't we? We had to please the adults around. We had to please our parents. We had to please the if you went to church or synagogue or wherever, you had to please the adults around, the people in charge, because you'd get in trouble if you didn't. And so we adapt as children to behave in a way that will get the approval of the adults around us. And if we don't behave in that way, we get the opposite of the approval, and we get the, some kind of punishment or, some sour consequences that just don't feel well. Hi, thanks for joining. So we get everybody, thank you for being here. I'm so thankful for you. So we learned to seek the approval of others. It's a trained behavior inside of us. And then we go through life and we need it from our coaches. We need it from our, our bosses. We need it from friendship. I mean, imagine if you're the one who's always the thorn in the side, you don't really get to keep your friends, do you? Or if you're constantly acting a fool on the team, you get benched, right? So we have been trained to seek approval, and that's not always bad. There's some good to it, but we have taken that to these enormous extremes and completely lost track of connecting with our well, our intuition. We've lost track of being able to listen to ourselves and the signals and messages inside of ourselves because we're so busy doing things outside of ourselves, looking for the approval and the acceptance of others. We're looking for those accolades. We're looking for those attaboys, attagirls, those things that feel good, right? We all want the job well done. You did it. Here's an award. Now, so I'm taking this actually, this can fit for everyone, but I'm taking this into the veteran community. But everyone, whether you're a veteran or not, take this with you because it still applies. So we've been taught to seek approval. And now, usually, especially in the veteran community, you're taught even more so to deny yourself. You have to. You've got to be part of the mission. You've got to be part of the team. You've got to be part of the group moving forward in whatever way they are. I don't know if you know, there's no such thing as calling in sick. I can't tell you, I've gone in crippling pain. I had a UTI one time and I was in crippling pain. I still went to work in the ICU and I'm dying, I'm pushing through because the mission calls for it. And luckily I worked in the hospital, so one of my nurses is like, Rochelle, what's going on? And gave me a prescription right there. Now I'm able to get a prescription because I worked in the hospital. I was able to start taking it, but I was still on that unit working. I went in with disgusting, horrid food poisoning one time. We got some stuff to calm that down, and I was on the unit. So imagine the people in the field. You don't let your brothers and sisters down. You push, you fight through, and you get feedback for that, don't you? That's part of what you're doing in the military. You don't quit. You lost a leg? Well, this person, is bleeding out. You find a way to help them. That's just kind of the mentality, right? It doesn't matter whatever's going on. You're taught you're broken down in basic trainings and different things. You are taken down to nothing and built back up just the way they want you. So whatever you brought in from your childhood is now a million times reinforced. You've got to do this. You push through your pain. You push through your hardship. You push through your sorrow. You push through your grief. And what that means is suppress, because you are not going to be the one who risks the approval of sticking out, of standing out. Now, maybe you're not in the military and you still have that mindset. This still applies, okay? So now we've got our military brothers and sisters who are either still active or discharged in some kind of way, and they have that mindset still, which is what makes them kick-ass workers. Let's be honest. That's why when people have veteran points in their background, workplaces are often like, yes, we want you because we know you have been trained to kill it. And I mean kill it as far as awesome performance, not literally kill. We get that, right? So the thing about these military service and law enforcement is the same. Fire is the same. First responder is the same. But the military is slightly different because you're owned and there's no calling in sick. Okay? You're given some Motrin and you get back on the field, whatever your mission field is. Mine was the hospital. It was the same. So taking that into grief, now years later, I'm seeing so much more clearly, plus with some recovery actions, like some stupid amount of recovery actions, how not only my childhood, that's what I took from before, but holy smokes, I was trained to deny every pain, every sorrow, every hardship because there's someone else who I needed to serve more. I was constantly taught to compare and minimize my pain because of the needs of that person over there. And there's something beautiful in that. That's not bad. But when I take this into account, which isn't really taught in such a way, there is a such thing, by the way, as spiritual abuse. That's a whole different ball of wax that I would love to work through with you. But there is something in a grief recovery method. So we're not going to talk about God in the class. We're going to talk about recovery, how you were hurting and how you can recover. And then I'm going to show you how to recover. But this isn't about spiritual recovery, okay? This is about we have been trained our whole life to put everyone and everything ahead of ourselves. And the Bible says, love your neighbor the same as you love yourself. Have you been taught that? Have you been taught that on any platform? I guarantee you, most of us have not. I certainly wasn't. Even when I belonged to a big body church, I was not taught to love my neighbors the same as I love myself. I again was taught that the needs are always more important. I had to almost fight and justify if I needed a break. Motrin it, Rochelle. Naproxen or naproxen, whatever you say. Take that. Come on. We got stuff to do. We've got a mission field. Not always, but very, very often that's the concept that's taught. And if we are so busy doing for the world, but yet we're crumbling physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever kind of way, we're not going to take our mission very far. We should be something that those who we're trying to help and serve, we should be something that they see and want to be like. And I guarantee you, eventually, people get tired of watching you try to kill yourself by overdoing, overextending, overbeing, over-serving, over-functioning. Follow Pete Scazzaro, emotionallyhealthy.org. And you'll get a lot of clarity on this over-functioning that you're doing, that you've been taught, that I was taught, that I lived with. And it nearly took my life. Many times. And I would do my grief recovery work so I could get back on that job. But it was always, oh my gosh, I'm dying. Let me do my steps because I don't have anything left. And let me get back in that mission field, whatever it was. At my own expense, always. Teaching my kids to ignore their own intuition, their own need for a pause, their own need for reflection, their own need for a break, their own need for recovery, whether it was their physical body, their emotional body. It's always, this doesn't fit in the way. This doesn't fit in my schedule. This doesn't fit in my plan. So how many of us, veterans especially, were you taught that hardcore and strong? And that's a beautiful quality that you've been taught. But I also want you to pause and think about how much can you really take forward when you aren't serving yourself a little bit too. Not in this, it's all about me type of arrogant attitude. And we know the difference. We know the difference between arrogance and, I do have to pause a minute, I'm only human. I'm only a little baby human. I need to heal in these various ways just as much as I want to help that person heal. How much can you really help another when you haven't done it yourself? Maybe you're a specialist listening to this. Maybe you're part of a religious organization. Maybe you're part of our veteran society. Maybe you're none of those. You're a first responder. Maybe you're just a parent, a spouse. Are you over-functioning in your relationship? Do you have the bitterness and the pains of living outside of your means? Living outside of your means doesn't mean money all the time. It means your physical, human, emotional, mental capacity as a human. Are you seriously denying your intuition that says, you better pause, you better pause, you better pause, you need some help, you need to work on this, you need to pay attention to this? There's a reason that stuff is coming up. So I ask, yes, I hear, let's see what kind of messages we have here. Good morning, friend. Sending big hugs. Well, thank you, my friend. Big hugs to you. I love you. Good morning. Oh, I just read that. Yes, love Pete. Yes, yes, yes. Check out some Pete Scazzaro. Emotionallyhealthy.org. Oh, there's a train going. Do you hear it? Emotionallyhealthy.org. Let's see. Asking your boss for a day off to tend to a sick child was an awful feeling for me. Oh my goodness, yes. How many of you have beat yourself up because, for me, my kid's always breaking an ankle, a wrist, slicing open his hand. He's got to live on the edge. And I'm like, dude, what is happening? Why do you have to do this? But having to pull back until I realized I'm allowed, for me, I needed scripture to say, the same as I love myself. Well, I apologize. A phone call came in because I always forget to put it on Do Not Disturb or whatever I need to put it on so the interruptions don't happen. But yes, how much have we learned to deny the needs. And if we have a need, we feel sick. We have emotion bubble up. That's called grief, by the way. That's emotion bubbling up of what we wish the moment would be different, that we didn't have to call in sick, that we weren't going to have to risk their approval, that we weren't going to possibly get fired, that, we wanted to be with our hurt loved one or our ill loved one, but we were filled with these conflicting emotions, but I really need to go be present for work. That's the conflicting emotions. I need to be here, but I feel like I should be there. It's the conflicting emotions. That's literally the definition of grief. I had someone yesterday talking about a huge grief experience that they're going through. They said, well, that's not grief. So many people say, well, that's not grief. And it's just really because they don't know what grief is. Grief is the feelings that bubble up because of what I wish for that other person, because of what I wish for myself, because what I feel like I should do is not really what I want to do. It's the conflicting emotions. That's what grief is. And it can come from any type of situation. And it very much can come from times where we're living outside of ourselves, where we're pushing ourselves, not just for the sake of betterment, but when we're pushing ourselves far beyond what our actual capabilities are. It's not okay. And when we are living in a world that maybe they didn't put that expectation on us, maybe our boss didn't say, you're going to be in trouble if you have to call in sick for your ill child. But there's something inside of us that's leaving us feeling that way. We need to work on that, guys. These are grief responses, and we have to work on it. I had so many feelings for the last 15 years of trying to do this veteran's disability claim for huge ailments that affect my life every single day. But I was so afraid for all of these many different reasons. I'm fine. I could push through. Well, I could do this. Well, I'm not going to accept that. I'm not going to have surgery on that. So I'm just going to push through. All these reasons, but they were all coming from old fears and old worries we have to be willing to accept that maybe we don't know everything, and we have to be willing to seek and hear and chew on new information. I'm not telling you that everything I say here at my grief recovery page, you have to just accept it as fact. The grief recovery method is proven effective by science. It's evidence-based. There's no way that I'm going to steer you astray as long as I stick to the method, which I do. But you're allowed to say, yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to pay attention to it. You're allowed to do that. But I want you to hear that when you have feelings bubble up about being human and you don't acknowledge them, therefore you're putting yourself into conflict with your own nature, your own needs, your own intuition about how to protect and care for your body. Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, it happens, and it's not good. It's putting you into conflict. Hi, thanks for joining. I have someone here. It says, Jesus actually took time to refuel physically and spiritually. And yes, he did. You are so right. And you know what happened? Because I was so locked in to my belief system, the way that I had grown up and the way that I understood the world. I missed that. I would read over it and skim over it, and it didn't land. It didn't take root into my soul, into my spirit. I missed the messages. So, which was so much of the Bible. In fact, if you see my Bible, it's very color coded and blue, and there's blue all over. And when you see blue in my Bible, to me, it signifies, I either am able to see the emotional component of that, how I missed it, how I misread it, misunderstood it, misheard it, just missed it all together, right? There's so much in my Bible that's blue, because when I'm emotionally healthy and well and recovered, I can read this guy differently. I can read this whole book differently. It all means something different. So whatever your religious or spiritual practices are and belief systems, I promise you, you'll go deeper in wherever you are when you become emotionally intelligent, emotionally healthy and well and fit and recovered. You just will. There's not much I can take away from that truth. It's just how it's going to be. So wherever you show up is where I'm going to meet you. And no, like I said, we are not going to talk about religion in a class, but that you have permission to show up with your heartache and seek recovery assistance, okay, without the interference of religious beliefs or spiritual religious practices or anything of that on my side, because it's not essential to your recovery. And let's face it, we're all showing up from different belief systems and practices, and they're all welcome and wonderful. In fact, they just really have nothing to do with our grief recovery method. So I just hope that as you are looking through your life, I hope that's an aha moment for you. We have all heard that everyone's needs are important, but we've also always heard that everyone's needs are more important than our own. And when we use the needs of others to minimize and ignore the needs of ourselves, that is not a good plan, okay? That is putting you into conflict with your nature, and it is not helpful, it is not healthy, and it isn't attractive to other people. And also, it might be initially, until that person's feeling neglected by you because you're so busy trying to serve and meet all the needs. It's going to work against you. Veteran service members, you look into how you were taught to deny yourself. And is that holding you back from starting your claim too? Again, vainsiders.com, good information. Even if it's just to learn and get new ideas and just new things to consider and chew on, I highly recommend vaclaiminsiders.com, vaclaiminsiders.com, vaci.com. It's super helpful. I highly recommend every ounce of it. The amount of learning I have been able to do just with their free stuff, their free YouTube page, their free Facebook page, their free Instagram page has been enormously helpful to me. So I hope that you find something helpful and beneficial for you too. Let's see, complete truth. Love reading my Bible so much more now that I'm emotionally with an emotionally healthy heart. Yes, absolutely. Hi, thank you for joining. Also, society does not value time to refuel either. You're completely right. Or even time to grieve. You are totally right. Absolutely right. I have someone who went through a horrible death recently in their family. They were given 1 day. 1 day. When I was active duty, I was destroyed with time. I was exhausted. I was working, this is typical of the military. You work, especially in a wartime condition, 28 days in a row with no days off, 12, 14, maybe 16-hour days with a commute on either way. I was exhausted. I wasn't, over in Afghanistan. I was still on my base. But those type of hours, and you don't get overtime, by the way, in the military. That doesn't exist. So anyway, I'm so exhausted. My immune system's down. I'm having these weird things. So I was like, you know what? I'm having so much pain. I think it's this, my uvula, the thing that hangs in the back of your throat. I think it's the uvula. I need to have that cut off because my immune system's down and it's touching the back of my throat and driving me crazy. I need that cut off. I got 2 or 3 weeks off for that. And it was this quick num clip done. No, they did have to cauterize it so it wouldn't bleed. 2 or 3 weeks for that. But I know people go through death and they get a day. Law is 3 days. Let me ask you, in 3 days, we don't even know what the hell we're supposed to be doing for a death. In 3 days. Oh, I should make that call. First of all, we got to feel it, but there's no time to feel it because you got this mad rush of a 3-day window. The world is so freaking upside down. Oh, I got surgery on my pinky. I literally did not have surgery on my pinky, but it's an example. Surgery on my pinky. I should get, 2 weeks off to let that recover. What? Not that we shouldn't get recovery time for physical ailments, but we're not getting equal recovery time for these emotional ailments. The world doesn't even recognize emotions as a valid wound. Therefore, you aren't given permission to recognize your own emotional truth for valid wounds. These are emotional wounds. The same way I would cut my arm off, I experience that type of pain for different emotional situations. And how many of you are out there and you have not given yourself recovery time for that depth and that intensity of a wound? How many of you just got busy, hoping that time would make it feel better? But how many of you have realized that time didn't make it feel better? How many of you just told yourself, stay strong. I got to be strong for myself. I got to be strong for others. I got to be strong for my neighbors over there. But how many of you, when you're quiet and still in the shower, just before you fall asleep, on the toilet, whatever, on a drive, there's just enough time to be quiet that you realize that actually isn't gone. And what I want to know is, how long will you let yourself feel the effects of this? How long will you let yourself be affected in this heavy, uncomfortable, unhelpful way when there's evidence-based assistance for your recovery out there? you've got to fight through all of the messed up psychology and get to the point where you're going to see healing and recovery. I can't make you do it. I can't do anything for you until you decide, I want to do this. I want to feel better. I want to be different. I want to move this thing out of the way that's preventing me from doing that thing. That's grief recovery for you. I hope this has been helpful. I always love your comments and your thoughts and your heart on something that sticks out to you, or a question or a worry or a wonder you might have. Everything we do from the moment we establish contact remains confidential. So you can send thoughts to email Rochelle@grmspecialist.com. You can privately message me through Instagram. Whatever way that you get this information, you're welcome to use the private way to message me if this is helpful. If you just like more information, visit griefrecoverymethod.com. It's really great. My own website is linked on the on my profile here. If you just want to go to my site, you won't find a whole lot of different information. It's largely the same as griefrecoverymethod.com. And you'll see other specialists too. There's more than just Rochelle who offers this class. So go to griefrecoverymethod.com. It's helpful. And my phone is just going nuts, so I'm going to pause. Everybody, I love you. Thank you for joining today. Thank you for sharing your comments as we go along. I love doing this work, and I can touch so many different genres of people who have been affected in these different ways. And you know what? I'm going to work my butt off to cover them. I love you, and I'll talk to you all next time. Bye, everybody.